On the topic of suffering, I would like to address the idea of self-inflicted suffering, which is the amount of suffering we choose to experience based on our actions and behavior, whether we do it intentionally or without even realizing, but to some degree we manage to create and inflict quite a considerable amount of suffering based on our belief systems. And one important one would be, of course, when it comes to relationships. There's so many relationships that don't seem to work out. There's so much emotional trauma that's being created due to so-called failed relationships. And it seems to me that a lot of this suffering can be avoided, luckily, by just having a different mindset, by just choosing more constructive ideas and following through with decisive and constructive action. For example, one way of, well, first of all, I'm not an expert on any of this, of course. I'm just relating some of the experience that I've lived and others have lived, so there are some conclusions that can be drawn out of that. So one idea would be about being true to yourself. For example, let's say you want to start a relationship with somebody, right? If we're honest with ourselves, we can tell if that person is interested in us or not. I mean, it's not, rocket science, it's not magic, it's not that difficult. We can see when somebody is interested in us. We can see and feel when somebody wants to, at the very least, try to have a constructive, long-term, stable, monogamous relationship with us. Yes, things may change. One of the partners may be confused initially, would not know if they want or not, and then the more time you spend with them, the more they realize they want to be with you. Fine, that can happen. So, of course, it doesn't have to be in an instant. But what I noticed is so much suffering is self-created, self-generated by ignoring our instincts, not being true to ourselves, and projecting our wishes, our desires, our template of a perfect relationship and a perfect partner onto the person in front of us, who more often than not is not the same person we project them to be. And when we use projections like that, which are not based in reality, and they also ignore common sense, facts, and our intuition, then of course we're setting ourselves up for suffering. And then we go into the blaming game and the victim mode, and we just blame and shame and we pretend we're victims and that person is evil and so on. And that's fine, we all do it. I'm sure all of us do it. Maybe some don't do it, but at the very least most, if not everybody, does that for a while. And that's a way, a guaranteed way for us to experience suffering. Nothing wrong with it as long as we learn from it. But then if we keep repeating this cycle and we don't learn anything, then we just end up experiencing continuous, consecutive failed relationships, because there is a lesson to learn. And the lesson that I've learned, one of the lessons, is to be true to yourself. Is this person the one that is right for you? Is this person interested in you? Is this person somebody who you can build something? Or is it just lust that's attracting you, and wishful thinking and projecting, and ignoring clear signs? You say, yeah, it's going to work out. I want this person, and we're hanging on to them, hoping that they would somehow match our version of themselves, or our version that wish to experience. It's sometimes it can work out, I guess. Maybe it's possible, but it's definitely a guaranteed way of exposing ourselves to unneeded suffering, in my opinion. And this could be related to some trauma that most of us have, and that needs to be addressed. But if we use it as a learning opportunity and move on, that's great. If we keep repeating this cycle and we notice that throughout the years we have failed relationship, it cannot be that it's always them. Sometimes it's us. Probably most of the times it's us. So one way of eliminating a tremendous amount of suffering from our life, not just eliminating, but avoiding as well, is to just be true and honest with ourselves and go with our instinct, go with our rational mind and critical thinking, read the signs as they are, not as we want them to be, and we can definitely decrease the amount of suffering that we expose ourselves to. We're not going to completely eliminate it for sure, but what's the point of adding so much suffering into a life which already comes with a huge baggage of suffering pre-installed, so to speak. So we're going to suffer anyway. The least we can do is keep that suffering to a minimum instead of building more suffering based on our belief system. So that's one way of avoiding suffering, and it is suffering. There's probably others, but this is a big one for now.